Good evening and welcome to episode 161 of the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Howard Kravitz. Thanks for joining us tonight. We got a lot of great things to talk about this evening. My Saratoga trip being one of them, but mainly the late pick five Saturday at Del Mar. And the PPs just came out a few a few hours ago. Wow, this late pick five on Saturday at Del Mar is absolutely difficult. Big fields, very exciting. Please make sure you subscribe on the bottom right hand side of the screen after you do that. Hit that notification bell. Our shows vary throughout the week. We're always Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. But as you know, we've been doing some extra shows. So you got to hit that notification bell so you know when new content will rise. Also, smash that thumbs up button. That'll tell YouTube this is a great show. Of course, you know, with my name tag on the bottom of the screen, you can follow me on Twitter. And I've been very active on Twitter, especially last weekend. I sent out some very cool videos and pictures and many things from Saratoga. If you follow me on Twitter, you saw them. If you don't follow me on Twitter, you didn't see them. So make sure you follow me on Twitter at HKravitz. And of course, the bottom of the screen on the scroll, eventually, you'll see my email, hkravitzhorse at gmail.com for any questions, comments, opinions, or whatever. You can also see on the bottom of the screen that tomorrow night, our regular flagship show, 8 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be covering the fantastic card at Saratoga. Next Saturday, or this Saturday, I should say, it's the Jim Dandy Stakes. You got Epicenter, early voting, Zandon. Wow, what a field that is. And then you also have the Vanderbilt Stakes with the return of Jackie's Warrior. And those past performances just came out a few hours ago. This is no walkover. Jackie's Warrior's got some fast horses he's going to face. So we will cover that late pick five tomorrow night for Saratoga Saturday with our special guest, a gentleman who I just saw for the first time in Saratoga, and I'm going to reciprocate. He invited me on to the Capital OTB Racing Across America morning show through Capital OTB, and I was on his show live from Saratoga Saturday morning for about 20 minutes. And now we're going to have Seth Merrow on our show. Great guy. He's an excellent handicapper, great analysis. Big fan of the game. He's been in horse racing a long time. Seth Merrow from Capital OTB will be our guest tomorrow, along with my fantastic co-hosts. All right, I think we're going to bring our co-hosts in right away here. Of course, those of you watching live, please make sure you comment on the top right-hand side of the screen for any questions for myself, Pete, or Paul. But we're going to go ahead and bring in before I talk about a few things, I want to bring in my uh, co-host because I think they ought to hear everything that I have to say about the trip and some thanks, including one of my co-hosts deserves some thanks as well. So let's bring in my co-hosts right now. The old hosts of the show from Maryland, Pete Visco, and from the Saratoga Special, Mr. Paul Halloran. Guys, how are we doing tonight?
Welcome back.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You guys, you see we got a new background. We got some banners,
Looks
got some
good.
icons there on the bottom right, left-hand side of the screen. And as you guys notice, of course, you guys notice at home, we got the bling. I got my hat. It came in. We got the HHH Racing Podcast hat. Got the HHH. Whoop, there we go. Did it again, Pete. The HHH Racing Podcast polo. I got a special order. That's why mine are in. If you guys ordered, I just sorry, Paul. Listen, sometimes the big chief gets a little special treatment. He'll be coming in. I just talked to my distributor. They're placing the order. You guys will be getting your clothes in a few weeks or so. But you can see the hat and the polo. Paul, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Howard. A little running around here, life getting in the way. I had a meeting I had to be at tonight for a client, but I am
That's
home
what I
and
heard.
ready to go.
So, Paul, are you done with that meeting? Are you here to stay now
Yes.
for? Okay,
No,
great.
I'm good. Yep.
And just so everyone knows, Paul was very busy tonight, like he said, with the meeting. Paul's picks will be doing live. So as we go
Yeah.
through the races, Paul is going to just tell us our picks, and I will put them in at the bottom of the screen. So bear with us with those. Gentlemen, I have a few public thank yous that I'd like to say first before we get started. So bear with me. As most of you know, or all of you know, I was at Saratoga Springs for the first time this past weekend. Actually, more than the weekend. I got in last Wednesday night and was there through Sunday morning. I'd like to give a few thank yous. I have nothing written down. I'm just going off the cuff. So I'm thinking in chronological order. First of all, I'd like to publicly thank the people that were with me on the trip. Brad Anderson, Matt Miller, and Philly Joe Metka. Joe is first time I met Joe. Great guy, excellent handicapper as well. Those three guys were a real pleasure to be with the entire trip. We stayed in a house. It was fantastic. Other than the fact that we had to crank up that air conditioning. If you were in Saratoga Springs this past weekend, or basically, I guess anywhere in the Midwest or East, it was about 95 every day in Saratoga. It was a sweat box, but it was a great time. But anyway, thanks to my traveling companions who made the trip great. In order, I believe, of the trip, I'd like to thank Mike Schrader. Mike Schrader is the manager of In Front Training Center, where I got to see one of the horses that I have a bigger piece of, Magistrate, who will be starting probably September or October, trained by Christophe Clement. He is getting a lot bigger than I saw him when I saw him in December. He's a big gray colt. I love everything I see about him. Not sure about turf or dirt, but anyway, thank you to Mike Schrader. Had a great time. By the way, the In Front Training Center, guys, has an indoor, like 5/8 mile dirt track. It's basically like encompasses. It's really cool. It's like basically a big oval that's around the middle of the training center, which has the stalls and the stables, and it's covered. So like even in the winter, they can just train on this like indoor um, track, which I've never seen before. It's really a dirt track, which was really cool. But anyway, thanks to Mike Schrader. Um, Friday, uh, big thanks to Kim Ware from the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation, who was able to set up through a donation of our traveling party. We went on a fantastic backstretch tour with the big Richard Migliori, who was just absolutely awesome. Guys, how about this? 2.5 hours. The MIG spent 2.5 hours with us, going to the backstretch through Clare Court, seeing a bunch of the stables, talking about the history of, Man of War. Very cool video I sent out on Twitter where we were basically in a golf cart driving down or inside the original track in 1863. So the original track of 1863, guys, is still there, as Paul knows. They actually train on it a little bit. Very, very tight turns, very narrow, very cool. So anyway, thanks to Kim Weir and the Richard Migliori. Also want to give thanks to Andy Serling and Anthony Stabile, who I said hello to. Andy Serling gave me some paddock tickets, so thank you to Andy Serling and Anthony Stabile. Also want to thank, we went to some hosts' houses for some fantastic meals. Peter Thomas Forenthal, want to thank him for a fantastic dinner at his house. Had the chance for the first time to meet his wife and their wonderful daughter, and Muggsy, the famous handicapping dog. Met him for the first time as well. And I also want to thank Marshall Graham, who hosted us for a brunch. He's fantastic, of 10 Strike Racing. Also saw Clay Sanders there and met Marshall's family. Shout out to them as well. And then a final thank you. And if I forgot someone, I apologize. But a final thank you to Donnie Nelson. I know, Paul, you know Donnie, I believe. Great guy. He's an executive there with Naira Betts. We were treated first class, unbelievable. We got sort of these cool seats that were right outside the 1863 club. We were literally on the first turn. Like if you just reach outside of our paddock, we were touching the outside rail at the top of the first turn. It was absolutely unbelievable. First class treatment from Naira Betts and Donnie Nelson. So thank you very much. And if I forgot anyone else, I apologize. But the whole trip was just absolutely amazing. And finally, how can I forget? Thanks to Paul Halloran, right down there. Paul Halloran just wrote an article. Paul, it's on the Pete. It's on the website now, I believe. You can shake your head, Pete. I know. Yeah, it's on the website. Paul wrote a great article. It was more a feature about myself. It also talked about a little bit my traveling companions and my trip to Saratoga. But it was more a feature on myself. Paul, kudos to you, man. You are an excellent writer. And from a journalism major who's written many articles, I know a good writer when I can see one and read one. And Paul, you covered it like a glove. So Paul, just shout out to you. If you want to read the article about myself, please uh, go to our website. And on our website, we have the article up from the Saratoga special. Or better yet, go online and check out the Saratoga special and just check out the whole newspaper, which came out today. Paul, is that right?
Yes,
Today's issue?
Wednesday and hard copy Wednesday and Saturday. Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Oh boy, how can I? Boy, man, thank you, Matt. How can I forget? Oh my goodness. I mean, I knew I was going to forget someone. Thanks, Matt. Tom Durkin. Tom Durkin, who was awesome, took myself, Matt Miller, Joe Metka, and Brad Anderson on a personal tour of the National Racing Museum Hall of Fame, which was great. He had a lot of stories to share with us. And gentlemen, I got exciting news. I don't want to hold him to it, but I do have Tom Durkin's uh, personal information, and I believe he's going to be coming on the show. I don't know when, but we'll see if we can get Tom Durkin on the
That'd
show.
be
If you're
awesome.
watching right now, viewers, can you imagine the best? I think arguably the best race call announcer in the history of the game will be right here on the HHH Racing Podcast, TBA. Hopefully during the Saratoga meet, guys. Let's check some. Well, I checked some comments, guys. Let's see. We got Stevens here. Steven, hello. Patrick, young man who's just finishing college. I got a chance to see him again. Leo, I sound very distant compared to Paul. Okay, so maybe my sound is a little bit off. I don't know. I thought my sound's okay. I'll check that. Kyle's here. Let's see who else. And then Matt Miller mentioned Tom. So we got a lot of people watching tonight. Pete and Paul, here's how we're going to start the show. And I didn't really prep you on this, but before we get into Del Mar PPs, any quick thoughts about the Saratoga races for the ladies this weekend? Of course, we had Malathot versus Clairiere, and then we also had Secret Oath, who lost to Nest. Any quick thoughts, Pete or Paul, on those two races?
Go ahead, Paul.
Well, I was right on one of them, which means I was right on 50% of them. I loved Nest. Not that I mean, just compared to Secret Oath, one of them was going to win, right? And I was on the wrong side. Pete will forgive me for being on the wrong side of the. And ironically, I love Clairiere as a horse as well, Pete, but I'm kind of snake bitten by Malathot. I've mentioned she nailed me in the Oaks for a pick 5 with search results that would have paid 3 times as much, and now, but Clairiere was just much the best. But how good was Nest, by the way? I mean,
Unbelievable.
Nest, yeah, they're likely gonna go to the Alabama, but and this is going to be a very, very good Travers. We've already talked about it. If this were other years in the Travers, thinking of the Alpha Dead Heat year, perhaps. If this were other years when the Travers was light, I think they would give it serious consideration. But the Travers is going to be absolutely loaded. And they're still waiting to see, the flight line people are still waiting to see if any airlines fly from California to Albany. That's still TBA. But other than that, no. So I was very impressed with Nest, and Clairiere right now is at certainly right there at the top of the division. She did not have a great trip. Even in a small field, she encountered some trouble. As great as Rosario is, and he is great, but he does kind of have a knack at that. He can get you in trouble even in a 4 or 5 horse field. But certainly, Pete, once she got out of the trouble, she was lights out.
Yeah, I love Clairiere, and Nest was super impressive, and it's going to make for the rest of the season along the way. It's going to make for leading up to the Breeders' Cup, to the distaff. It's going to be fantastic when those 3-year-olds, and we haven't even seen a couple of the 3-year-olds come back yet. So maybe they can come back strong as well if we can see them. And then, Malathot, even when she doesn't win, she hasn't been winning, but she's still running strong races. So she's still always a threat to hit the board. So it's going to be fun to watch the ladies progress over the rest of the year.
Both daughters of the great Curlin.
Yeah.
Of course. By the way, not only the girls, of course, the males were on Saturday. We're not going to recap the Haskell. You guys covered the Haskell car like a glove with Kyle Roscoe last Wednesday. So congratulations on that. Fantastic show. And Pete, first time out of the box, first time starter as a host. Thought you did a fantastic job. I know you tweeted out, and I think you told me personally it's not easy to host, and you were much better the first time than I was. I can tell you that. So
I'll take it.
congratulations to you. I'm just going to very quickly say I know there was a lot of talk about the Haskell. We're not going to go back. Congratulations to Cyberknife. Anyone that had Cyberknife, fantastic job. Congratulations to you. I gotta say, Tabo was the best horse, though. I the ride that Mike Smith gave. I know that apparently Taba didn't want to be on the inside or took too many dirt. The minute Taba came into the 2 or 3 path and let Giroux come up the inside, and then Taba was like in between horses and got shuffled back, and Mike Smith and Taba lost like 2 or 3 lengths. I knew I was in trouble, and Taba still only lost by an inch. So it's not sour grapes. If you had Cyberknife, congratulations. But at least my humble opinion, Taba was clearly the best horse in that race. Going forward, we'll have to see. But anyways, very exciting race. And the Travers guys is lining up to be, wow, that is going to be an unbelievable race. Of course, the great mighty Rich Strike will be pointing towards
Yeah.
the Travers, and as apparently I read, is working out of his skin. Apparently, so
Howard, do me a favor. Keep saying that. Will you please keep pushing that so people bet him?
Rich
Please.
Strike looks unbelievable. Should be the
I'm
morning
gonna-
line favorite for the
I
Travers.
would hope so.
I hope he wins it. The rest of the hell with the rest of these 3-year-olds. I
Oh,
hope
my
Rich Strike
God.
comes back and wins the Travers just to stick it to Paul. Paul will be so pissed.
Well, anyway, we got plenty of weeks to talk about. They actually have a very exciting announcement about this podcast on Travers. I'll just throw it out there right now. Now we're going to handicap Del Mar. For the first time ever, the HHH Racing Podcast is going on the road. Myself and Matt Miller, the exact details to be worked out, are going to be at a very well-known OTB through Hawthorne Racecourse. We're going to be doing a live HHH Racing podcast show on Travers Day in front of, anywhere between, I'd say, 30 to 75 people who are going to be paying to see the show. They call it a party pool. We're going to be making bets. It's going to be live on YouTube, guys, from an OTB. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Just sort of booked that recently through Hawthorne. Shout out to Hawthorne Racecourse. We'll get more details on that later. So I was not there. That was Sunday, right, guys?
Sunday, right?
Don, I left Sunday morning, so I was not there. I heard there was some booze. I think Paul, a lot of people just didn't know what happened. Of course, I was home. I was home watching the broadcast, and I was tweeting out literally to the second what happened. I have zero problem with the no contest. I want to get on to Del Mar, but if you want to real quickly, Paul, respond to Don.
So for those who didn't see it, they the starting gate gets pulled away by a tractor, which is a machine run by a motor. And for anyone who's ever had a car not start, obviously the tractor cannot be running when the horses are loading. So they have to start the tractor and it didn't start. So they were scrambling and the horses were on the backstretch. And, the race was, I think, 1 mile and 1/16. So the horses are going to get to the gate before the finish line. And, or it might have been right around there. And so the outrider started signaling to them on the backstretch that there was a problem. The problem is the horses at the front of the pack, the jockeys kept going. And several horses in the middle, back of the pack, saw the outrider and pulled up. So once horses pulled up, they're kind of left with no choice because, if you bet on one of those horses, you didn't have a chance. So, of course, they did get the gate out of there in time. So 2 horses went head to head to the wire, and people are like, well, what's the big deal here? Well, the big deal is if they didn't get the gate out of there, you got a problem. So, all we need in this game is the images of horses crashing into a starting gate that didn't pull away. So, if you had the one, by the way, I had the horse who won the race. So I lost. I'm with you, Howard. I got no problem with it.
No, I mean, better safe than sorry, man. Jeez. I did not have the one. That saved me to get the pick 5. So, but we've seen a lot of, last thing I'm going to say, you guys, not you two, but the public in general, people viewing, watching, if you're playing Saratoga, you got to pay attention. There's been a bunch of these 2-year-old turf races. And it's funny, Nick Tamro specifically mentioned on the show he does not like those races, and I totally get it. Like every single race of those 2-year-old first-time starter 2-turn route turf races has been a wire-to-wire job by a horse that's already started, and they've been going like 25 and like 50 to the half. And like every time a Chad Brown monster, first time starter, comes home like a train, has not got there. That's happened like I think 4 times already this meet. But anyway, I digress. Let's see here. Oh yeah, listen, the merchandise, the store is not open. We can always bring the store back. Tom, thanks for joining the show. We can always bring the store back. By the way, I'll see what demand is like. Whatever. Last thing, guys, the podcast pool is gonna be starting again. If you have no idea what the podcast pool is, I'm going to send out an email to everyone on the email list. And I think you know what. Well, Pete, I'll talk to you about the website with the podcast pool. I'll talk to you about that. But the podcast pool is going to start again. Forget the Derby Superfecta. That's it. I forgot to change the banner. But anyway, it's going to start again in August. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, look through your emails or just email me if you're not on the email list. I'll get you information about the podcast pool, which will be starting in August. All right, guys, we're starting a little bit later tonight. It's a little later on the East Coast. Let's jump right in here to the Del Mar. We haven't covered Del Mar yet, not for any negative reasons, but Del Mar, for those of you who are thinking like, well, California's got really short fields, I don't want to bet. Del Mar is a fantastic meet. I love Del Mar. Just because we haven't covered it, again, I'm not throwing any shade, or we're not throwing any shade at all. We've been a bit Saratoga centric. Del Mar is fantastic. I love everything about it. This pick 5, I have to say, even though we're coming Saratoga tomorrow, guys, with two short fields tomorrow in the stakes at Saratoga, this pick 5 we're covering right now might be my favorite bet of the weekend. I think this is the one I'm going to be playing the most and playing the heaviest. I thought this was a very, very difficult sequence. Guys, let's jump right in to the late pick 5 right now as I go ahead and share my screen. I'm also going to be switching a few. I'm going to get a different. Pete knows what that's about. I'm going to get a different background up on this. Let's get that background up there, and let's go full screen. I think we're ready to go. All right. Let me take off this banner too. We don't need the scroll anymore. Woo! I did it, Pete. All right.
Good job. Good job.
There we go. Thank you. Race 7. Look at the time. Race 7. For you East Coast people, especially, this is going to start. The start of the pick 5 starts at 8 p.m. Eastern. And as Paul has told me, tradition at Saratoga, when you're out for dinner or wherever you are, go ahead and bet that late pick 5 at Del Mar. So again, 8 p.m. Eastern is the start of the late pick 5. It starts a 5-furlong turf race. I want everyone to notice the rail is out 12 feet. As the rail gets further and further out, it tends to favor speed. I'm not saying it's going to be speed favoring on Saturday, but as the rails go out a little bit, it's usually more speed favoring. 5 furlongs is an optional claiming 80,000 non-winner N2X or also N non-winners of 3, depending on the condition. It's a big field. It's a field of 9. Again, 5 furlongs on the turf. Pete, we're going to go with you first as I bring up the PPs, and also I'm going to go ahead and switch to our picks here. And again, Paul, let's just do this so people aren't confused. Paul, can you give me your 3 numbers first? Are you, Paul, you're
on mute.
536.
Okay, I'm going to switch this right now as I do this. Pete, we're going to go with you here. Hold on one second. 536.
Hey,
There
Paul,
we go.
I have 3 completely different numbers. So isn't that awesome? We're starting off with a
Yeah.
bang
Wow,
here.
pretty unusual for you guys.
That
actually.
very rarely happens. Yes.
Now, something also for our viewers: these PPs literally just came out 2 hours ago, guys. So,
Yeah.
I did my homework. I mean, 2 hours is all I need, really. I watch a lot of replays. I feel comfortable. I know Pete probably feels comfortable. Paul maybe not as much because, again, he was at he had a meeting. So again, just ignore Paul's
Yeah.
picks completely.
That's what I'd do.
I'm just kidding. But Paul, just out of fairness to everyone, you probably don't have these opinions aren't as strong, or you weren't able to look as deep.
Yeah, no, I had about 40.
Yeah,
no, I clearly I had about 45 minutes. I got back to the house about
okay.
8:15 Eastern time. So I did the best I could in 45 minutes.
Okay. By the way, shout out to Jim.
Hey
wow.
Jim, if they bring us the money that they're spending over there, I think me and Paul will be out if they start throwing that kind of the millions around like they're spending.
All right. So now these numbers are correct. I'm assuming you guys looked at the Equibase to make sure like there weren't any like entries or whatever. So
They don't
the
have
only thing
entries
you're
in
not
California.
okay. So the only thing you're not going to see at home, guys, is the morning lines. We don't have morning lines yet, which actually, Pete, you've mentioned you sort of like that even better.
I do only because then you don't get swayed a bit by if a horse is long and then you get maybe scared off of them, or if they're too short, you like a horse maybe because of the odds as opposed to what their form says. So I like to handicap and then see how the odds come out. And then I mean you're a little pissed sometimes if you pick like you do your top three and they're the top three favorites, then you get a little upset. But I think it makes it for a more balanced handicapping.
All right, Pete, you're going with the speed of the speed. I like this angle. I'm actually very interested in this source, and we should play the guessing game a little bit. I mean, we don't want to take too much time, Pete, but we should just guess what our top choice at least is going to be in the morning line. I don't want to steal your thunder. Any guess as to what hot box will be morning line, Pete?
I mean, I have to imagine relatively low. I'm thinking, I mean, I don't think anybody in this field is going to be too low. I'm thinking the favorite wouldn't be any lower than like 5-2, but I think this one probably like 3-1 ish, three to
Oh
one,
wow,
seven to
I
two,
would
or
be
you think
shocked.
lower?
I would be shocked, Pete. I'd say about 6-1.
Oh, you think that high? Okay.
Oh, for sure. I
I
mean,
mean, I would love that.
the numbers are a little bit slower, but go ahead. Go ahead.
They are, but
What do you
you
like
know,
about this horse, Pete?
a couple things. So I like that it's moving back. It's sort of moving back up off the win. And one thing I'm a broken record on here. One thing I always like is a horse coming back, especially 2-3 and 3-4. This one came back with a lifetime buyer top, first time off after a pretty long layoff, and then it's laying off again for I forget the amount of days, but a couple months. And I like that this one is won each time off a layoff. So if you look back, December of 20, it's got a win. Two back, it's got to win. Last time, it's got to win. So this one runs well off the shelf. It's 1-for-1 at Del Mar, 2-for-2 at the distance, 3-for-4 on the turf. The trainer corner, he's so off this kind of layoff. But I like that this horse specifically looks to be pretty good off the layoff. And then, like you said, the weird thing about the speed in this one, if you look at the time form, the 7, 8, and 9 are the top three time form early paces. So those three, it's going to.
We should really mention names
Oh,
here.
sorry.
And
Yeah,
guys,
sorry.
if you can help me with that because I
Yeah,
can't look at
apologies.
the Equibase and the PPs at the some time. So if
No,
you
I
guys can
actually
help me
have the numbers. Yeah, I
if
have
you
the
can help me
numbers.
throughout the show tonight with names as well as numbers, but I believe the 7 is Cotopaxi and then
Cotopaxi,
Hotbox.
Hotbox, and Yes He
And
Can is
the
actually the
three
top. Yeah, so that's the
the three
top.
outside horses look like the speed.
So that's
Early speed.
interesting because they're gonna, if they all gun, then it's gonna see, well, can someone clear? Is someone gonna
Yeah.
get sort of hung? And so I was interested in this one again. I just think this one has the speed. This one likes the track. It likes the distance. And again, I like the improvement from 3-4. So again, you talked about the figures being a little light, but if this one takes another step forward, second time off the layoff, then, or second time off coming back off a long layoff, then I think it puts it right up there with the others.
And by the way, let me put everyone back on screen. We fully realize, ladies and gentlemen, that you probably, when I say you, I'm talking about the live viewers tonight. Of course, if you're viewing this later on the next few days, or if you're going to be listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Anchor, you've probably already done some handicapping. But those of you who are watching live, we'd have to assume you haven't looked at the PPs yet at all. So take some notes if you're watching live. Get that pad of paper out and pencil or pen or highlighter or marker, whatever you like to use, and take some notes because this is literally hot off the presses. No pun intended with Hotbox. Your second choice, Pete, and then we'll get to Paul's first choice is, by the way, let me just mention about Hotbox. Emily Ellingwood is very capable, but I don't know how you feel, Pete. I sort of like, I mean, all she has to do is just go. I mean, she's not a top rider, but there's not a lot of thinking here. I mean, just break and gun and just try to wire the field, right? So when you have a jockey that has a little bit lower percentage numbers or maybe not as talented as some others, I think a 5-furlong turf sprint, frankly, is perfect. You just tell her
I
to
was just
break
going to
and
say
go
that.
and just try to wire, right?
Yeah, don't fool around too much. Yeah.
Yeah.
In a route race, you maybe have some more thinking to do. And this one, just
Exactly.
go. You have some good speed.
I'm a little now. Maybe this is a my racehorse play here, Pete, for you. But I was a little surprised. I didn't think anyone else would have this horse necessarily in the top 3 because of the long layoff. But what does he like about Lane Way for second here? I've got this horse second also.
Well, I mean, it's got so obviously has good figures in it. I mean, that 89 last time with the win was really good. I like that there's so much speed in here again, potentially. So if the 7, 8, 9, if Cotopaxi Hotbox, and yes, he can do all break well and do all gun it out, then you have the potential for a pretty hot pace up front. This one has shown in the past a really excellent, really excellent closing kick. I assume this one will take money again, just from the my racehorse angle. But
Yeah.
the only thing this one, it had its best races when Pratt was on. No surprise by that. But what I like, it picks up Reese Belize, so it's not like a huge drop off. It was running well in solid company last year. So again, if the layoff is the only problem, but if you look, it's been. I mean, you look at the work, 2 back was really nice. You look at the work, 3 back. There's just been some really solid, consistent works coming. So it looks like this one is at least in shape. Mandela had some solid numbers off this type of layoff. So it looks like he can get them ready. The horse has a win over the track. I like that the last race, which was his best race, did come at the cutback to 6 on
Yeah.
turf. So it was the first cutback on turf. It had
Yeah.
sprinted on dirt. So I kind of like that. So again, this is just one, as long as it comes back, I think it's got a good shot.
I'm a little concerned this distance is too short. We'll see, but
Yeah.
he's out of a really good mare, Aldebaran, so who was a sprinter. So maybe that's all. Maybe this is what this horse wants to do. Listen, it's 5 furlongs off a layoff, so I mean, I'm not worried about really the layoff, but I think this horse is going to need a lot of things to go his way, frankly, to win. But I still think he is probably the best closer in the race.
I mean, that's what I liked. I like having the best closer in a race with a ton of
Yeah.
speed. So again, I want to have someone who's a part of that speed, but I also want to have someone who's going to come off the pace.
Paul, you got a closer that has more recency. Phil D'Amato is already 18% at the meet at Del Mar, has 4 wins, and Vasquez already has 3 wins. Freshly gelded horse, Coulthard.
Yes, yes. And I did pay, I did take note of the fact that those you guys mentioned, this 3 speed horses all next to each other, all on the far outside, which, at 5 furlongs is not necessarily the ideal spot to be if they all go together. The 5 has to jump up, but, D'Amato is on fire. Vasquez had a good first weekend. I think this horse is going to close. I do think it's going to be a quick pace. Um, he's got an 87 in his buyers. It's probably going to take a low 90s to win this. So, he's in the ballpark. I mean, as I say, I don't love him, but I tell you, I'm 5 deep. I did send you a pick 5, Howard. I'm 5 deep in this race, so I
Okay.
really think I think you need coverage in this race to start.
Hey,
And it's
Paul,
very
that was. Oh, sorry, Howard. I was just going to say that was my next horse. That was my if I on the pick 5, I didn't use it, but that was my 4th one.
All right, well, I
D'Amato,
feel better.
D'Amato, yeah, D'Amato he was 33% wins and 59% in the money off like a 90 to 120 day layoff. And I think this one, I love first time geldings. So if this one does improve because of the gelding and the fact that D'Amato is good off this sort of layoff, then I think it does show potential to take that step up.
Yeah,
And
guys, I've got
he's
7 horses in my ABC.
yeah, there you go.
Not in the pick 5 you're going to see on the show tonight, but in my ABC. Paul, really quickly, I don't want to spend too much time on this particular
Yep.
race. Any thoughts on Whooping J you have in second here?
I have him as a horse for course. Horses who run well at Del Mar tend
Yeah,
to
look at
keep
this.
running well at Del Mar. 4 out of 5 in the exacta.
Great point.
Again, has buyers that are in the high 80s. You can find a 90. His career best buyer came on this course last year.
Yep.
He has some stakes experience. He is a Calbred, but I will warn people about this, Howard. If they're going to look at the form and see Bill Spar is 0 for 12 off the claim right now. There was a time when Bill Spar was the best claiming trainer in California,
Yeah.
bar none. And as far as this being a Calbred, Square Eddie is one of the top sires of Calbred. So if you're looking for a Calbred to step up into open company, this could be your guy.
By the way, I don't have this horse anywhere, but I'm ashamed because there's one angle why I actually I have Whooping J as a C. You mentioned this race here where he got the 90. Do you know anything about that day, August 20th last year?
Mm-mm.
Guys,
Uh,
that was my 50th birthday. So I should absolutely bet Whooping J. If I don't put Whooping J on my ticket, I'm going to be embarrassed. August 20th, 2021 was my 50th birthday. So
so you both peaked on that day.
absolutely. Well, I mean, actually, Whooping J sort of looks like he did, but
Yeah.
maybe he can get back to that form. I'm going to talk about the six, and we're going to move on to the next race, guys. The six is my top pick, Commander. And by the way, very soft pick. I do not have a strong opinion. You guys know how much I love turf sprints. This one in particular seems very difficult to me. Paul, you got this horse in third, and
Yeah.
Pete has this horse absolutely nowhere. That's how difficult this race is. I'll be very brief. Sort of that horse for course angle. This horse is 4 for 6 in the money on this Del Mar turf. I've mentioned a few times I'm not a big fan of horses that are in for the tag, but 80,000 is a pretty high tag. What I like about this horse is getting back to Peter Miller. Look what Peter Miller did with this horse, going 5 furlongs at Del Mar. Absolutely awesome. Peter Miller knows how to train this horse. It's not as if he was in really that bad form lately, although he did tail off in his last two. I just don't think 6.5 down the hill is what this horse wants. He's been freshened up. He's got good works. He's got Juan Hernandez, and he's back in the hands of Pete Miller. And guys, I think this horse might be 7-8 to 1 morning line.
Yeah,
So
I agree with you. The note I had on this was just if you look back at the races with Miller, they definitely fit and are even better than many in this field. That was the exact note that I had.
yeah, this is a wide open race. Before we move on to the next race, Pete, I'm gonna let you answer this question because I know you have horses with my racehorse.
I was just going
Patrick
to bring
asks,
this up. I
yeah,
was just going to
Patrick
bring
has a
that
great
comment
a
up.
great question. Do you prefer to maybe avoid the my race? Well, of course, now you own you have a piece of some of these horses, small piece, whatever it is. It doesn't really matter. The point is these horses are over bet. Does that have any effect on you using these horses horizontally or vertically for that matter?
I mean, I handicap them exactly the same way I would any other horse. I mean, if I like the horse, I'm not going to not put it in because it gets bet down. If I think it's, especially in a horizontal, I don't like throwing horses out of horizontals that I actually think have a really good shot to win. But there are races outside of horizontals where I'll just look and go, I've seen this horse. I've seen, it might be one that I even have a piece of, just so you see the workouts, you see everything leading up to the race, and you go, man, this horse is 4 to 5 and really should be about 6 or 7 to 1 or whatever the case may be. In that cases, I sometimes look to go against them because it is just sort of dead money in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's case by case, Patrick. But that's a good question.
Paul, who do you have in race 8, sir?
Race 8, Howard. I have 958.
Okay, I'm just getting that up on the screen for the banner there. You see, all right, there we go.
Seriously,
Paul,
we have three. They're completely different horses again.
Wow, what? Pete and Paul, I thought you
Unbelievable.
guys were like.
We used to be at,
I thought you guys were at Simpatico. What's going on tonight?
I think ever since I hosted last week, now he wants to go against me. See, I think
I
it's
guess, I
revenge.
don't know.
That's what I must
I
be.
did not. I did
By the
not
way,
have
these
Pete's
reactions are real, folks. Pete and Paul have no idea what each other's picks are, and frankly, I don't usually see their picks too very quickly before the show, and I don't look at their picks to make my own picks. Although I'm always very interested to see what they do. Let's start with the Bing Crosby. Wow, there are 2 stake races. This is a grade 1. Grade 1. It's always a really nice race. I think it's a win and they're in. I apologize for not knowing. I should know, but I think this is a win and they're in for the Breeders' Cup Sprint. It's, of course, 6 furlongs on the dirt. It's a nice field of 10 with a lot of interesting sort of fresh faces in this division, as you see there. Let's go ahead and switch to the PPs here. Paul, you're going to the one of the outside horses who just, I believe, won, if I remember correctly. Yes, you're going with American Theorem, right? Who just won the Triple Bend last time at San Anita. We're going to go ahead and show that race. There's 3 horses coming out of that race that are in the race on Saturday. You got the Principe horse. You've got American Theorem, and also Get Her. Is that Get Her Number? I think, is that right? Yeah, Get
Yep.
Her Number, even though it's a boy. So let's go ahead and watch that race. And as we watch this race, Paul, you can talk also. You can sort of multitask. You can talk about why you like American Theorem, and if you want to talk about the race that we're going to watch, obviously feel free to do that also. This was a 6-horse field, and it was interesting because these were all prices on the day. American Theorem's the 3, Principe Carlos the 5. Getter numbers the 1. So watch the 1, 3, and 5. I'm going to go ahead and move into the race a little bit. Go ahead, Paul. Talk about the American Theorem that you like. 3.
Yeah, well, you could see American Theorem is sitting off this pace, which I don't see the fractions. Well, I can look at the fractions 21-4, which for 7 furlongs is decent. You know, California, they move they move a little quicker out there. But, getting a good rail trip here with Joe Bravo, who returns, who is riding well. He also picked up 4 wins last weekend, including the last race of Sunday, Howard, when I was alive to 3 big pick 3s, and Joe Bravo went wire to wire, and I did not have a sniff of him. So Bravo with a classic ride, save the ground early, then swing some ride, and you're going to see a pretty competitive stretch drive here for 213 to 1 shots. They are head and head all the way to the wire, and American Theorem just gets in front. I've kind of always thought this horse was pretty good. That's a grade 2 race. That's I think he runs that race, he wins this race, to be very honest with you. Little bit of a layoff.
The inside horse is Principe Carlo, who is, I don't know the number, I apologize.
5.
Okay, the 5 is the 5 on Saturday, and then the 1, this is Get Her Number.
That's
you
the
see
10.
Those Gary Barber Silks, who is the 10. So again, all 3 of these horses are coming back. What else did you like about this horse, Paul, other than this win?
Well, I like the win. Like I say, the horse has got some back. He hasn't, didn't do a whole lot around 2 turns. I think the horse is better around 1 turn, which is what he's going to get on Saturday. They tried him in the big boys, the Santa Anita Handicap, the San Pasquale, but they went to Turfway and ran in the synthetic. I don't know what the hell that was all about. But if you look at the sprints, he wins at 5.5. He runs second at 7 furlongs. He's off the board at 6.5. He runs second at 6 furlongs, and he wins at 7. So clearly, I think he's a better 1-turn horse, and that's one of the reasons why I put him on top.
A-Roth, thank you, A-Roth, and thanks for joining the show tonight. Just confirming it is a win in you're in. How about Alex Condiff? Alex, Principe Carlo in a gallop.
Wow.
Alex, I love you. Alex, I love people taking a stand, even though I completely disagree with you on many levels, but that's okay. Good luck, Alex, with your pick there. Let's see. Paul, you've got the 5 in second. Again, I apologize. We don't have numbers out here, guys.
The 5 is Principe Carlo, so good segue.
I threw the 8 and third.
Basically, Paul, it's fair to say you like that last race. You like a lot of things about that last race that we just watched. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
that's fair.
Pete is just being a rebel, Paul. He's like, screw you, Paul. I'm just going with 3 horses you don't even have at all. Pete is going with the 1, Desmond Doss. Oh, by the way, Paul, we didn't play the game. American Theorem's morning line, what's your guess?
I would say American Theorem in this race is going to be about 7-1.
Wow, I actually thought she might be a little bit less, but I'll
Maybe
say 5 to
6.
I'll say 5-1. But
yeah,
you probably
that could be.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Pete, Desmond Doss, what's the morning line on this going to be?
I'm thinking a little bit up there. I'm hoping.
Double digits, got to be.
Yeah. That's what I was hoping. I was going to say maybe.
I'll say 15-1.
I was going to say 10, but I'll take 15. So the one thing a couple of things I like about this one, the figures need to jump, especially if you compare it to the American Theorem race. But that was a little bit of an outlier where that one sort of jumped way up. But I like that this one just came. It doesn't usually happen, but it came back a little bit better. It's actually it reverted back to some old form, and it came back at 6 and is running really well in a couple stakes races. So it's not too bad. I like that Miati 4 out of 8 wins, 7 out of 8 in the money in graded stakes. And if you look at this one, the form is a little muddied up, but on fast dirt, this one's 7 out of 8 with 5 wins, this horse. So he's 7 out of 8 there. But if you look on turf, 2 out of 11, only 3 out of 11 in the money. So it sort of muddies the form up. So I think if you just erased all the turf races on here, you would see a pretty nice form. Now, again, I do think this one needs to step up, but at a price in a field that I don't think there's anybody there's not anyone in here who's a guaranteed to run their best race. They all sort of.
I got one, Pete.
Okay, you go ahead. But I mean, I'm assuming it's still not guaranteed to run the best race. No one in here
Guaranteed.
is ultra consistent.
I've
So
got a horse that's guaranteed.
so I'm going to take a price, and I mean, this
All
is
right.
one where I'm going at least 4 deep in the pick five. So I think it's wide open, but I like that up. This one I think is potentially going to be a price.
Yeah, I mean, you make some excellent points. He definitely has to step up. I mean, those were Calbred races, and he looks a little bit slow. But you're right,
Yeah, yeah.
his form is dirtied up, and there's nothing wrong with getting Giroux, who's coming out west for this big day at Del Mar. And then you've
Oh,
got
he's riding,
Shaw.
Howard. He's riding there this meet.
Oh, that's right. I'm so sorry, Paul. I've been a little bit out of sort. I don't know if you heard. I was on vacation, guys.
Howard, last weekend Giroux rode at Del Mar Friday, Monmouth Saturday, and Del Mar Sunday.
You know what? I know that because I was watching Del Mar Sunday and they were talking to him. I mean, what these guys. That's a whole other show, but
It's
I don't think
incredible.
people give these guys enough credit. It's absolutely unbelievable. Sorry, you're absolutely right. Giroux is out west this entire meet. What does he like about Shah? I think it's Shaz actually, or Shaz, who you've got second, Pete. My top
Shaz,
choice, by the way.
yeah, I think this horse he's going to be he should be able to work out a pretty solid stalking trip. He's back under Baffert. He's back under Baffert, which is never a bad thing, whether you like it or not. I like the fact that he ran that 105 at 6.5, so it's sort of cutting back to a sprint. So I think this one, especially because there's speed in here. At least on paper, there's some speed. So if he can sit off just a bit, get a nice trip, get a nice ride. If Baffert is bringing this horse back, and you could see by the works, I mean, the works have been solid. I mean, nothing spectacular, but I think the works show that this horse is ready to go. Then I think it's just going to be sitting on potentially a monster. I mean, it's a $1.1 million purchase. It's under Baffert. Again, it's the kind of horse that should, and probably you'll take a bunch of money too, and I think should be able to run his race, especially if we do get some of that speed up front.
All right, guys. So here's my guarantee strong opinion. Um, by the way, in case you're wondering, like, Howard, how did you do at Saratoga? So Thursday and Friday, I did okay. I know people in my party, one particular person was unbelievable, had an unbelievable day and was off the charts. Saturday for me was a complete disaster until the last race when I gave out a horse called Fancy Feline, who was the sixth horse in the last race Saturday at Saratoga. I gave him out on the show with Seth Merrow, and I told everyone to key this horse. You know what I'm talking about, Pete. My favorite vertical play to back
Mm-hmm.
wheel underneath in second and third. The horse finished a good third, 11-1, and let her inspire you, who I think was 6-5 or 4-5, won the race with a 35-1 shot in second. And the try for Dollar paid 535, and you could have played my try for like 10 or 12 bucks. Again, just by back wheeling or just keying a horse in third, which in this case was Fancy Feline. So that was excellent for me. But frankly, Saturday for me was a complete disaster. Here's my strong opinion. First of all, you guys should be embarrassed about something. I'm going to tell you why in a second. These guys I know to bust. I know these guys know I like to bust some balls, just of course for fun. The fact that neither one of you have drained the clock in your top three is embarrassing. I don't
You
know
can
why you
have
guys
them.
think. I don't
You
know.
can
I don't
have
know
them.
why you guys. And Alex. Let's see. A Roth, if you're out there right now, A Roth. I don't know about a cinch, but I think drain the clocks and run a big race. So A Roth, I indirectly agree with you. You'll have to convince my wonderful co-hosts. Apparently, we see something that they don't, or vice versa. But let me talk about Shaz. Guys, Pete and Paul, do you know? You see the workouts at the bottom. Shaz is working out like an absolute train. Do you know who he's been working with in the morning? And you want to take a guess for Baffert? Another horse that is running in this pick five. Da, da, da,
Country Grammar.
da, da. Bam. Exactly right. And Pete, I watched all three of those workouts, the entire workout on XBTV. You can watch for yourself if you get XBTV. Pete, I'm telling you, and Paul, no doubt, no question, Shaz was completely outworking Country Grammar. And now I know the times are the same, but Country Grammar was like being asked. The jockey was flagging him, blah, blah, blah. Now, you can say, well, Shaz is in a sprint race, and Country Grammar is like more of a long-winded type, and maybe he's not good at a workhorse. That is all very possible. I don't know the intricacies of the workouts of Shaz and Country Grammar. All I can tell the viewers out there is Shaz was completely outworking in hand, while Country Grammar is like being asked to keep up with this horse. I think this horse is an absolute monster. I think he's going to get a good trip. I don't mind the 6 furlongs. I think if Shaz gets the right trip, he is going to be very tough to beat. I would almost be tempted to single this horse because there's a lot of ways you can go in this race. I think Shaz has a huge future. I love this horse on Saturday. I think he's going to be 5-2 morning line would be my
No,
guess.
no. Oh, he's not going to
Yes.
go off
Oh,
at 5-2.
I'm sorry.
He's not going off at 5-2.
Well, what do you think is going to be morning line, Paul? This is a
Probably,
Baffert. This is a Baffert with
yeah,
huge numbers who's been in the
yeah,
money in 4
two to
starts.
2-1 morning line goes off at 8-5.
Oh, I thought you were sort
Yeah,
of
I
saying,
agree.
oh, even
No,
less.
I was
Okay.
going to say, yeah. I mean, I think
Okay.
drain the clock will take money
Yeah.
because of who he's run against.
Well,
But
Drain the Clock is. Let me go full screen now. Drain the Clock is my second choice. Um, he's got some huge back numbers. Last time at Gulfstream in the Smile Sprint was a bit disappointing. I think it's the speed of the speed. I think Drayton's just going to send like a banshee. And I think this horse has a chance to wire the field. I will admit he's been a bit inconsistent, and I don't like the ship all the way across the country, and he's never worked over Del Mar. So there are some negatives. To me, this is like an all or nothing type. You guys have the nothing part. I was just giving
Yeah.
you some crap. I totally get it. Like Drain the Clock could run out of the money easily, but I also think he can win. So this is a fascinating horse. I've got him second. I've got your American theorem in third, Paul, but I don't have a real strong opinion other than I like Shaz a
I,
lot in this race.
Howard, I
Final,
think saying
final thoughts from you
how
guys.
yeah, I think saying that Drain the Clock's last race was a little disappointing would be like saying the Titanic was a minor marine mishap.
Well, he didn't break great. I didn't show the PPs there.
Four
It
to
says
five. If you bet this horse at 4-5 last time, you don't think he
no.
was disappointing. You would think he was awful.
Yeah, I didn't bet the race, but I'm just
Nor
it
did
was
I.
off. He was coming from Maidan. His head was
Right.
turned. Blah blah blah. Anyway, I hear what you're saying. Any final thoughts, Pete, on this race before we move on?
no, I think it's. I'm hoping that I'm hoping that drain the. I'm with you on Shaz. I think Shaz is probably the best horse and will probably be the best horse long term out of this race. So if I was to single a horse, I think I'd go with you on that anyway.
Jim brings up a good point. Although Safi did win a race in New York, I think
Saratoga.
was it at
He did.
Saratoga? Was it last week, Paul? When I
Yeah,
was there, or
last
was it
week
the
he
first
won. I
week?
think it was the stakes too. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
But Jim is right, and Jim in principle is right.
yeah. All right, let's go on to the next race, guys. It'll be very interesting. Let's go on to race 9 here as I go ahead and do my old switcheroo. And I'm going to go first, guys, just to move some things along here. And I think we're ready to go. Yeah, let's go full screen. Race 9 is optional allowance $40,000 is an N1X. The optional price, again, is $40,000. This is going to be on the turf. They're going 1 mile. You see the field there. It's a big field of 12 in this race. Again, we don't have morning lines yet. Let me go ahead and switch. You guys can see our picks at the bottom of the screen.
No,
Another
you didn't
race that
take
I thought was
Howard.
very
You didn't
tough.
get my late breaking picks.
Yes.
You did not
Yes,
get.
Paul, go ahead.
Again, I'm way off with you guys. I have 3-12-1.
And up, you and Paul, you and Pete have one horse the same.
We're getting there,
we're
Pete.
getting closer.
All right, I'm going to go with, and I know the name, so Midnight Joestar on top. We need to watch a replay, guys. Before we watch this replay, the replay we're going to watch was the Shadow Sphinx. Now, Shadow Sphinx is a very nice horse, although it was absolutely awful, and I know because I used him in a pick 5. I don't know why he didn't show his speed. That's a whole other story. Anyway, Shadow Sphinx is a very nice horse. You see the PPs there. That's the horse that these guys lost to in this replay. What I want to point out, watch the 3 and 9 in this race. Midnight Joestar and One Fast Pro. I thought Midnight Joestar ran a huge race there. You see he's right here. We're not going to watch the whole race, but watch the key parts there. Again, here's One Fast Pro, the 3. Here's Midnight Joestar. What you're going to see is on the first turn, look how wide. I mean, the 9 is as wide can be. And meanwhile, One Fast Bro is saving. Look at this. I mean, this is a lot of ground, that Midnight Joestar on the outside. And now we go to the turn. And let me go to the turn. Okay, so here's Midnight Joestar again, 3-4 wide, while One Fast Bro is saving ground. Now, those of you that like One Fast Bro are going to say, Howard, he had a lot of trouble. I'm going to disagree. He saved ground the whole way. Again, Midnight Joestar is wide. You say maybe he didn't have room. Okay, he had to wait a little bit in here, but he did angle out. I mean, I don't consider that a lot of trouble at all, frankly. Now you could say maybe he gets pinched. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I don't really see the trouble with One Fast Bro at all. Meanwhile, Midnight Joestar was 4 or 5 wide the entire way and still beat him. I think this is very misleading, guys. I thought Midnight Joestar is, I don't know, 3-4 lengths the best compared to One Fast Bro, in my humble opinion. I thought Midnight Joestar, guys, ran a huge race there. I don't think he's going to be as wide today, even though he's got a wide post. I think there's more speed. I think he's the best closer. This is my top choice. I'll just mention the horse I've got for second here is Goliad. There's not a lot of speed in this race. I'm assuming that Juan Hernandez is just going to send Goliad hard, and maybe the speed holds. This horse has been a bit disappointing in his career, but I think he's the speed of the speed. I've got Goliad second. I have One Fast Bro in third. Pete, you also agree with my Midnight Joestar pick.
Yeah, the only concern, it's pretty much everything you said, so I don't want to repeat everything. The only concern I had, the horse doesn't like to win that much, 3 for 20
No.
and 0 for 6 at the distance. And
Yeah.
my fear with that was that it's a little bit shorter, and he's won some races going a little bit longer. But I think you said Goliad is the top speed and could be the speed of the speed. My hope, there is some other speed potentially in here. My
There
hope
is.
would be that we get
Nerves of
that and we get
Nerves
a
of
little bit.
Steel. Sorry, Nerves of Steel's got some speed. The horse right to his outside explosive. He's got some speed. I don't know. I wasn't overly enamored with this field,
No,
Pete.
me neither.
So even though you're absolutely right, I mean, the Midnight Joestar is not my kind of horse. He might be my kind of horse in this race on this day. And I
He's
think
my
I
kind.
don't
I
know, I'm
love the
guessing
closers.
I'll say 3-1 morning line. I'll say 3-1, maybe 7-2.
I could see that.
Yeah. Pete, let's mention one of your horses, then we'll go to Paul. You've got the 5 in second. Would that be that would be
Coalinga Road. Coalinga Road,
Coalinga
however
Road.
you pronounce it.
Gaines. Maybe some dirty up for him again.
Well, and he's another one who he bounces between, he sprints, he goes a mile, he goes on the turf, he goes on the dirt. So again, the form could be a little dirty. I didn't get too creative here. I like the 2 for 2. The 2 for 2 wins at Del Mar. I like the fact that the buyers have been pretty steady on the turf. I do like the routing. This one does come from off the pace a bit. I mean, it doesn't have like a huge late kick, maybe like the 10 does, but I think this one will be sitting off. And again, if there is some speed, this one can sit off. And maybe the hope is that extra distance will help. And it has gone a mile. So it's not like it's stretching out for the first time. It hasn't stretched out on turf, but at least it's gone a mile before. So it isn't doing something completely out of the realm of its capability. So nothing too creative here. That's just why I sort of like this one in a soft field.
Pete's a big fan of the Calbreds on Saturday, it looks like. So if you're a Calbred fan, they could have a big day. By the way, shout out to Bittersweet, who I just put a comment on. I'm not sure I've seen Bittersweet on the show before as a comment, but if we have Bittersweet, welcome to the show. And they both mentioned that D'Amato and Rispoli on the 10 are a real nice combination to use there. So they sort of agree with us there.
By the way,
Paul,
real quick, Howard, if Hotbox, who Coalinga Road lost 2-2 back, if Hotbox is who I picked in the 7th as well.
Yeah.
So if Hotbox runs well in the 7th, maybe that flatters that race even a little bit more. So just something to think about if you're watching them. So if Hotbox comes back and runs well, maybe that race is flattered a bit.
Paul, you like One Fast Bro. Certainly looks like to get a good trip. And if you think that trip was, maybe some people think that was a difficult trip. Again, it's up to the eye of the beholder. But you like One Fast Bro on top.
Yeah, I do. Career best number in that race, 91. At a minimum, it wasn't we can agree it wasn't an ideal trip. I see what you're saying about the 10, but I think the 10 is much more pace dependent than a horse like the 3.
Totally agree.
I think the 10 post going a mile on turf here is not ideal, but
Yeah.
Now I'm going to talk about the 12 next. So you'll say this guy's out of his mind. But, obviously I would say that the way the 10 runs, the post probably has a little,
Yeah.
it's probably less of a factor. But I think you're right, Howard. I think you mentioned that there does not appear to be much speed here, which is why I came up with the 3, thinking the 3 could be more tactical. And I think, and I could be completely wrong, and this, you might even call this a hunch, I think Cedillo is a dead send with this 12 horse. Now, he's only run on turf twice. He's coming over from Europe. No one's ever heard of the trainer, but you look at the trainer's numbers, first time coming over, first time, this trainer, first time with having a horse, first blinkers. There's a lot of karma going on here. Blinkers on, first time Lasix, which is a huge factor. I think this horse is a dead send and maybe could even steal it. I could be 100% wrong, but if I'm right, I'm going to get paid.
Yeah, I mean, I have not admittedly watched these replays from Wolverhampton and these on Lingfield, which are synthetic surfaces. I do know that in general, speed does not hold real well on those types of tracks. So I mean, I do know that for sure. But
I did have some. So hey, Paul, to that, Padilla had a 35% wins and 66% in the money with foreign shippers. So again, you don't know if the horse is good, but I like the fact that he's at least done that before, where he's brought over shippers from foreign. I mean, that just shows to me at least, and it wasn't a small sample size either, if I remember the numbers. So it was in the 30s. So it was something that he's at least done relatively frequently. So I did like that as well.
As Howard said, this is not a grade 1 race. This is an optional claiming 40,000 non-winners of one other than. So, you can't think those races in England could have been much worse than this, right?
And Paul, as a wordsmith, are you a fan of llamas? I know the spelling is wrong. I went to school. Llama has 2 L's, but I just want to make a joke.
I was a fan of not a cat but a llama. Pretty good horse that ran in New York.
Very, very, very good horse.
Nice, Paul.
Paul, guy asked you the question before we move on to the next race. Morning line guess on One Fast Bro.
One Fast Bro, I would say, is probably going to be close to where he was 5-1 last time, ran a pretty good third. I would say 9-2.
Yeah, I think that's about right. And you know what, Paul, this is what I love about both you guys, because you bring excellent opinion. You're absolutely right about both points. Is more tactical, has a better post than the 10. By the way, I do have One Fast Bro as of right now as an A. I have 3 A's. I know I'm sort of poo-pooing One Fast Bro, but I think he can win.
I mean, he doesn't. I was just saying he doesn't win a lot, but his 2 wins were at Del Mar, though. So at least that's one. If you look at the page, he doesn't necessarily win, but he wins. I think he was 2 out of 6 at Del Mar, which is it's better than the rest of his record.
All right, let's move on to the big one. Or even though I shouldn't say the big one because this is only grade 2, but I don't know how you guys feel. This feels like the big one to me based on the names in this race. Let me see here. Paul, who do you have in race 10? Let me switch that.
I have 139.
139. Interesting. Hey, you ready to see Pete's picks? Will Pete have any of those in his top 3?
I got 1.
Only 1.
I got 1.
All right, the San Diego guys, and I'm going to put us on screen real quick here because I think this needs emphasis. This is the best rendition of the San Diego I have ever seen. And it's weird because this is a prep for the Pacific Classic, which of course Flightline's going to. I'm assuming, and I'd like to get your opinion first before we talk about this race. I'm going to assume a lot of these horses are going to go to the Pacific Classic, but is it possible that some of these horses are not, and they're trying to get the money now instead of a month from now? Peter, Paul, any thoughts on that? This is a sort of a weird scenario.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be knocking themselves over at the entry box to run against Flightline.
Okay.
I would agree with that, Howard. They did talk at one point about maybe running Flightline here himself as a prep for the
right.
But second place in $1 million. Pacific Class is $1 million, right? If I'm remembering correctly, second place in $1 million isn't.
Yeah.
It's not a bad payday. So I would take that.
You know what?
Especially if you'd have to work too hard to chase Flightline, just sort of trot, just sort of trot behind him. He's going to get away and run away anyway. Sorry, Howard.
My take. No, I'm sorry. My take, and I could be wrong, is that it's not really Flightline they want to avoid. They want to avoid Life is Good and Olympiad. They don't want to go out east because a lot of these horses are sort of East Coast horses. My guess is that the Pacific Classic field will be big, and it's sort of yes and yes. It will be big, and they are trying to get a lot of money in this race. So I don't know. It's very sort of interesting. Let's go ahead back to the PPs, guys, or back to this race. It's a grade 2, 300,000. They're only going a mile and 16th. Again, please note the distance. The Pacific Classic a month from now is a mile and a quarter. This is only a mile and a 16th, which for me, guys, means very, very much in this race. We'll talk about it in a minute. It's a big field of 9. This might be the deepest. You see the field there. And Pete, we're going to go to you first. Again, it's sort of an open-ended question. This, to me, this is the deepest older handicap division race we've seen all year. I mean, this is deeper than the Stephen Foster. It's deeper than, I don't know. I mean, name a race. This is the deepest field I think we've seen of older horses all year long, in my humble opinion, Pete.
Yeah, pretty much top to bottom. I think the only thing about this one that might not be great is I don't know how many, there's only a few that I think potentially are real, true, top-notch grade 1 potential horses, like Breeders' Cup Classic level horses. I think there's only a few of those, but I think the ones that are a step below that are still pretty good. So I think depth-wise, you're probably right. I don't think there's really there's a couple horses that aren't that great, but I think there's not really a bad horse in the race. And some of these you get some, you either get a real short field or you get some garbage at the bottom end of it.
Yep. You're going with Country Grammar. I'm guessing. Well, go ahead. Morning Line, Country Grammar. Paul.
I mean,
Pete, sorry.
It's got to be. I don't know. It's tough because man, there's some names in here, and there's Bafferts, and well, this is a Baffert obviously too. But I'm going to say 9 to 5, maybe, if not lower.
I think it could be like 7 to 5 or something.
That's what I was going to say. I think it could be lower.
Dubai World Cup and finish
the
Saudi Cup. What does you like about Country Grammar here, Pete?
I just think, it's not too complicated. I mean, I think it's just he's super in form. He's back under Baffert's wing full time. He's just, that race was great. The race in Dubai was great. The Saudi race was pretty good. It was excellent. Yeah. And it's not like in 21, this horse wasn't awesome too. 108, 106 buyers last time he ran in the U.S. So this horse has always been good. He's always been a little bit underrated, actually, I think, because
I agree.
You know what I mean? He didn't win he didn't do as well in the big 3-year-old races, which are the ones that people remember the most. But I think now, he just doesn't run that often, but his form is just excellent. And he's hard to pass up. The mile and a 16th, like you said, though, might be a little short for him. I think he probably likes going a little bit longer. So, but we'll see. But on talent and form, I don't know how you can't have him in the top couple at least.
And you've got, and like I mentioned the workouts, but again, that might not be a negative. The horse is a long-winded sort who's coming off a long layoff.
Yeah, I don't worry about that with a horse like this. He runs it on the track mostly.
Pete, you've got a horse that I absolutely love in this race. Number 2, Defunded. The other Baffert.
Yeah, the other Baffert. And again,
like the other Chad.
Yeah, how many times does the other actually win in so many cases? I just think this one, he's got speed. And, anytime you can get a Baffert horse that's potentially, because if you look at time form, Stiletto Boy is second, Parnelli is third. They're not going to be as fast as this horse with under Baffert's wing. When he's ready to get a speed horse going, this horse is going to be the speed of the speed. It's a mile and a 16th, so I'm not too concerned about him holding. Last time he got caught by There Goes Harvard, but that was at a mile and a quarter, cutting back a little bit. Again, Baffert, speed of the, I don't want to repeat myself, speed of the speed. I just think this one, I would leave this one on because I hate getting beat by a Baffert on the front end in a big-time graded race in California or any track in the country, really.
Would you be using them both as A's, Pete, equal, or are you just going to single Country Grammar on top as an A?
No, I don't think I would single him. Again, it depends on the odds. I don't really want to have the top 3 favorites as A's, so it depends on what the odds maybe look like. But I like having, if I'm on, I don't think Country Grammar because of the distance potentially. I think because it's a little shorter, I could see him potentially coming up short in this one. So I'd rather be defensive against that. And having a horse on the top is good defense against having a closer at a little bit of a shorter distance that may not get there.
Okay. Paul, Paul. Correct me if I'm wrong. Where'd you go to college?
Not Harvard.
But you're going to Harvard this time, baby.
But yeah, I went to Holy Cross, which is where the people who turned down Harvard go.
Of course, the Crusaders. Crusaders, right?
Crusade.
Am I right about that?
Correct. Very good.
How about
Howard.
that? That surprises you, doesn't it? Anyway, go
No,
ahead.
because I read today that you're a pretty astute guy.
Actually, Paul. This screen. Actually, I'll leave it on this for a second. I want to do that. Digression number 3 of the night. I had a very strange talent as a kid. I was a huge sports fan. You can ask any of my friends back in my junior high and high school days. Name a Division I college. I could tell you the mascot just like that.
Oh,
including
I'm with you.
the
Let's
banana
go.
slugs from UC
Let's go.
Irvine
Let's have
and all the
we'll have a
crazy ones.
contest.
I loved. I'm not as good now. I'm not as sharp as I used to be, but I used to love Division I college nicknames. That's how I know Holy Cross. But anyway, Paul, what do you like about There Goes Harvard?
Well, look at it's a step up. Although he did win a Grade 1 last time. The horse is obviously in form. He's won 3 in a row. He's got to deal with Mandaloon. He's got to deal with Country Grammar. I get it. He's got a great post for this distance. He sat right off of Defunded last time, and I think he'll do the same thing. I think both Mandaloon, especially Country Grammar, but maybe even Mandaloon a little bit, might prefer another 16th of a mile. So if you're going to beat them, this might be the distance to get them. I think this horse is going to be a big price. And I think he is, coming off a Grade 1 win with a career best buyer, he is going to be a price that doesn't correspond with those two statistics.
Morning line, Paul.
I would say this horse morning line has got to be in this field. He's probably got to be at least 8-1, if not 10-1.
Yeah, I was going to say 10-1. Yeah, you definitely get a price. I don't know where that Gold Cup came from, but listen, he's
Mike McCarthy is good. Mike McCarthy is very good.
Not sure about the jockey switch from Irad to Herrera, but
yeah, well,
being said,
I read it's going to ride 11 races probably at Saratoga on Saturday, which makes it interesting, by the way. Johnny Velasquez, who probably could have ridden about 8 races at Saratoga Saturday, is flying across the country to ride this horse. Yeah. So that, hey, look, I'm banking on this horse. They talk about the advantage of going overseas early and getting acclimated, which obviously this horse has been went in February with the 2-race series. Maybe that's more difficult to come back off of. Maybe I'm grasping at straws, but this horse is going to get bet pretty heavily. And again, I think if you're going to beat him, coming off it is an X factor coming off the trip or the workouts. It's hard to say how Baffert's horses all work bullets, don't they? It's like you look at the workouts, you're like, well, this horse is really working well. Oh, wait a minute, it's a Baffert. It's another bullet. So that again, this race, Howard, is why I think you have to play ABCs, because on the ticket that you're going to put up that I sent you, I'm too deep just because I had to be narrow because I was 5 deep in a few other races. But you can't not use Mandaloon, for example.
Can we please tell Pete why he's? Can we tell Pete why he's wrong, Paul? Because the way I see with Mandaloon, isn't Mandaloon's B+ race good enough to win here?
Yes, but he did not run his B+ race last time. He ran.
But he still got a 98. Race. I mean, by the buyers, if that's his C race, then he wins.
Yeah, it's his C race. Yeah, no. By the way, I'm a big Mandaloon fan, and
I agree. I've got.
In case you hadn't noticed, Brad Cox is kind of on a roll, folks. So.
What is that? Cyber fork, cyber knife.
Yeah, cyber knife. Yeah. How about someone who had the horse in the Arkansas Derby and had the procedure and not having the horse.
Unbelievable. Yeah,
Although
I
I
think
did, as a matter of fact, I did have him in my horizontals. I did give out the winning pick four on only
you
a
did.
$16 ticket, which you could have played multiple times.
That's right. Was it Kyle also? Who else all said it?
Both, yeah,
Was it
both.
Pete?
No, Kyle and Paul both gave it up.
Shout out to Kyle and Paul for both having the pick four
But
last
yeah,
week on a very
this is a tough race. How you're going to get maybe 8 or 9 to 5 on either
yeah
Mandaloon or Country Grammar, and
yeah
if you like one of them a lot, that's a good price.
yeah. Here's my opinion. I have a pretty strong opinion in this race, guys, and I don't always have strong opinions. I think Defunded is going to wire this field. That's my strong opinion. I think I agree with Pete, and from the sense this horse is absolutely stunning. I think he's talented. He's a 4-year-old. He's just coming into his own. He doesn't have to have the lead. If it was any more than mile of 16th, I would not like this horse. I think this horse is going wire to wire, and I'm because Country Grammar is also in this race. I'm almost positive Cedillo is sending on Defunded because I think Country Grammar needs a fast pace. My other strong opinion here is Country Grammar is not going to win Saturday, but I think he has a huge chance to upset Flightline a month from now. I really think Country Grammar at a mile and a quarter can beat Flightline if Country Grammar. I mean, there's no way this horse is cranked, guys, for this race. It's like it would make no sense to me. And based on the workouts, it looks that way. I'm going to use Country Grammar very, very defensively. If he beats me, he beats me. Pete, I respect your pick. I totally get it. Maybe I'm, being silly here, but there's just no way Country Grammar's me cranked up for this race, and it's only a mile of 16th. He definitely wants to go longer. He just smells like a horrible favorite in this race to me. That's just my opinion. I think Mandaloon's live. Last thing before I go to last race, A-Roth and I are like simpatico. I think Tripley's fascinating. I have Tripley as a B, as in boy, because if Tripley can come back to his races last year at Del Mar, this horse was unbelievable last year at Del Mar in the summer. Now, maybe Sadler can't get Tripoli back to that form, but I agree, A. Roth and a few other people there in the chat. I think Tripoli is interesting. I've got him as a B in case he can run back to that form. All right, guys, we're getting we're creeping up to 9:30. I definitely don't want to go past that. So let's just very quickly talk about the last race. I'm not going to show the Equibase. I thought this was a very difficult race, by the way. Paul, who do you have in the last race?
3, 8, 12.
3, 8, 12.
I'm on a European horse kick
Okay.
tonight.
Wow, none of us have the 3 anywhere except Paul, which means Paul's probably smarter than both Pete and myself.
Paul only has to be right
with,
once.
Yeah, Paul's going with this like bizarro Euros. I love it. They're both their prices. Lady Clementine, love the name, coming from Southwell and Kempton on the Sin, and he's going to come here for George Papadromo, who's by the way a very good trainer, and Joe Bravo. I think Bravo won the last race of the day on Sunday. I don't know if it was for Papadromo or not. Wire to wire. Just going with a fresh face. This horse is sired by Churchill. So
Howard, we already established the fact that I was alive in 3 big pick threes that had a $60 winner in it, and he beat me. Do we have to keep harping on that?
What does he like about Lady Clementine, Paul?
Well, again, I think breeding wise, I think he's okay on turf. I obviously I do like. You mentioned Papadramo. Don't get confused by the 1 for 18. He is a good trainer. Bravo is started out. No, I don't think anyone won more than 4 races last weekend out there for jockeys, if I'm not mistaken. You did say it, Howard. He went right wire to wire in the last race on Sunday, and I think this race is about as wide open as you can be. This is the type of horse who gets lost in the wagering because he's coming from Europe. He's going from synthetic. Hasn't run on turf yet, and he could be a 15-1 winner, and I want a price in this race because I thought this race, Howard, was probably the toughest in the sequence.
You guys know how I feel about all buttons, but this almost could be an all button. Pete, before we get to your pick, I do want to mention something. You guys don't know this, but a little inside info here on Lady Clementine. You guys see the owner here. One of them is DeTample. If you watch a lot of PPs you might have heard of DeTample. The part owner of Lady Clementine is Mark DeTample, and a little 6 degrees of separation. I have a good friend who is a college roommate of Mark DeTample at Marquette. And if you don't know Mark DeTample, he's a very sharp guy. So, Paul, I'm actually throwing you some kudos here. Again, I have no idea if this horse can run, but the owner, one of the part owner, is a sharp guy. Maybe they saw something in this horse they like. So I'm using just about everyone here. That's interesting. Pete, you're going with the 6 horse here. Help me out. Is that take me by the
It's
hand?
Vivando. No,
Oh,
Vivando.
Vivando
Yeah.
for Hronis Racing and John Sadler. Nothing wrong with that combo.
No, it's a good combo. And this one, she, I should say, apologies, but she, yeah, I'm taking a little risk that I think she's going to probably need to step up a little bit. So I think, at least from a buyer standpoint, just maybe a step below. But one thing I liked is she closed last time into a sort of a speed favoring track. It was going a mile and an eighth, but she closed into it and couldn't get there. And then if you go 2 back, sort of not the best trip, had a little, lacked a little bit of room. 3 back, had a little bit of trouble, wasn't the best. So I think stretching back out to the mile, I'm just sort of taking a shot that I think this one maybe has a forward move with a good trip. And I'm hoping that if she gets that good trip, she's coming off some nice works. So if you look back at, those last 2 works, 59-1, 59-1. So it just shows that she's at least in form. And I think, again, if she can take a little bit of a step forward, it won't take a huge one. I think she fits in here in a field that I agree with you guys is pretty wide open. She was a $220,000 purchase too. So she's not, she's not someone that I think they thought at least decently of her when they bought her. So I think she's got a little bit of improvement in her, and I'm hoping that comes today or Saturday, I should say.
My top choice is a horse that you guys have in the money also. Albayadar. We have to watch this replay, guys. Jeff Mullins has 2 in this race. Albayadar in this race was 3-1. So I do like that this horse was well meant. You want to talk about a replay special. I don't know if you guys saw this race. Albayadar is the 5. First of all, watch the start of the 5 here. Completely shut off. I mean, broke okay. Didn't break badly, jumped up, but I mean, look at that. I mean, really?
Yeah,
I mean,
she's
there's already
way
he's
in the back.
already lost what 3 or 4. I mean, now the horse is climbing. I mean, this is ridiculous, right? I mean, this has already lost touch of the field basically by 3 or 4 lengths. Now watch what happens. I'll just move it along. The horse rushes up. You see right there, the horse rushes up and actually look at this, gets into position, but it's not even over. Watch this stretch run, guys. I mean, like you compare this trouble to One Fast Bro, for example, it's like not even close. And now, like, where am I going to go? Where am I going to go? Blocked, blocked, blocked. Try to get out. No, blocked. Trying to still blocked, blocked. Ay, 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 ay. I mean, this is a complete disaster. And, finishes evenly. But, I mean, based on the trouble she had, by the way, the 3 is also in this race. I mean, she finishes up okay, guys. It's not like she was closing like a complete train. I mean, that is, I don't know, 4 or 5 lengths of trouble, whatever you want to equate. I like the fact that, she's got some works since. I have no idea about the distance, guys. It's a bit of a guessing game, but the fact that this horse had that much trouble and was well meant means something to me. I'm very, very spread in this race. It's wide open. Guys, before we show our pick 5 tickets, I do have one question about this race that I think does need to be answered. And Paul, I'm going to let you answer this question. There are a lot of 3 and 4-year-olds in this race. At this time of year, when you have horses that have not broken their maiden, are you more likely to bet the 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds? You don't even look at it. You don't care? Because I have a little bit of an opinion in this situation.
You'd have to lean to the 3-year-olds, but I don't, I think a lot of it has to do with connections and how patient or not patient, impatient connections can be. You see Chad Brown runs 4-year-olds, first timers that, Peter Brandt has the ability to say, yeah, I have the money to pay the $3,500 a month, and we'll take our time. And, when you get there, you get there. But some other connections, frankly, don't have that luxury, and they might try to either rush them or not get them there. So, I'd be more inclined, if I got a 5-year-old, I got a problem with it, but I don't have a huge problem. But I mean, if it was a 50-50 deal, Howard, at this time of year, I agree. I'd go with the 3-year-old. But, at a race like this, Howard, 2, 3, 4, 5. This race is tough, but I do like your point on the 12, Howard, and you will see uh, he is in my pick 5.
All right, we'll get that in just a second. My position is I don't like 4-year-olds who have not broken their maiden when it's almost August. That doesn't mean a 4-year-old can't win the race. I'm just much more negative to older horses when you get into the summer because if they were that good, they would have broken their maiden by now. Pete, agree or disagree as I get Paul's picks up here?
No, I agree in general, but I do think it is a little race dependent because you could just catch the right field and then you get the win. So I don't like to stick to any hard and fast rules like that. I'm going to always take it horse dependent and race dependent.
Okay. Um, Paul, we might as well have you go first since I'm going to be typing in picks as you say them. I know you got 2, 3, 5, 6, 9 with was it 5, 9? You read them off and then I'll bring it up.
Yep, I have the 2, 3, 5, 6, 9 with 5, 9 with 3, 12 with 1, 3 with 3, 4, 5, 8, 12. You're gonna love this, Pete, when you see what that ticket cost.
No, I'm gonna do the same thing. I bet it's a 72.
The 99.50.
Oh, it's not.
100.
It's a 99. Oh, it's 100.
It's 100 exactly. So
Nice.
there, Uncle Howard.
So, Paul, you know what I did?
Got
Of
it.
course, I put a horse in. It was sitting at 108, so I had to chop that horse off like
Yeah.
always. So that's the
Yeah.
one that always gets
That's
you.
what happens
We need
when you have
we need to up
Pete,
the
when you-
limit to 108.
when you have a cheap uncle, Pete. That's what happens.
Yeah, that's because he's not Italian. Italians spend. That's what
Right.
he's got to learn.
You know, I try to take care of you guys. The people at home don't even know what I'm talking about. Boy, rough
Anyway,
crowd here. Rough
So
crowd.
you could
Paul,
see my
very
philosophy.
quickly, you're
Yeah,
going
I-
deep early, you're going deep late.
Late,
And
yeah.
again, Paul did not take, all fairness to Paul, didn't have nearly as much time to
Right.
go through
and
the
it-
races.
and I'm going to be playing ABCs. So, but
Right. Okay, there's Paul's ticket.
I will play that ticket, Howard, because if that ticket comes in, it's 5 figures. So I will play that caveman no matter what.
I think your Euros are fascinating. I'm using them underneath. I have no idea if they can run, but they're also in races that are wide open, right, Paul? So, I mean, why not?
Well, that's
Why
exactly
not
it.
throw them in there for sure? Okay, I just lost my train of thought. Pete, here's Pete's ticket, $72, 4, 8, 9 with 1, 2, 3, 10, with 5, 10, with 1, 2, 8, with 6, 12, a $72 ticket. Pete, talk about your construction briefly.
Yeah, I thought each race was wide open. I didn't really have a single candidate. There wasn't one that really jumped out at me. I do like Shaz a bit, even though it wasn't my top choice. I think that's one that if it could step up, can be maybe a dominant horse. The same. I like Country Grammar, but I don't like it at the shorter distance. And like you said, might not be cranked. And then the last race, I think the last race is wide open. But I said, you know what? I'm just going to stick with my top 2. I'm not going to spread just for the sake of spreading. I probably would have obviously ABC backup tickets potentially, but for this one, I'm just going to go a little bit deeper in a couple races, and then just go with my opinions and go 2, 3 deep and just try and stick with them.
My pick 5 is 4, 6, 8 with 2, 4 with 1, 3, 6, 10 with 2, 3 with 4, 5, 7, 12. Screw Country Grammar. We don't need country. Let Country Grammar upset Flightline in a month at like 5-2, whatever Country Grammar is going to be. I'm using Country Grammar very defensively in the San Diego. I just don't think he's meant for this particular race, even though he's tons the class. It's just one of those situations. And then I'm going, I love to fund it. And I'm going 2-4 in the Bing Crosby. I really like another number 2 Baffert Shaz and Drain the Clock. I could go very deep in that race. I'm actually less confident in the Bing Crosby than I am in the San Diego. I think either defunded wires the field or Mandaloon comes from mid-pack and wins. I just don't like Country Grammar. I think some of those other horses are okay. We didn't even talk about Royal Ship at all. Royal Ship loves San Anita. Not very good at Del Mar. We didn't talk about it, but take a look at it. So, I mean, I guess there goes Harvard could win a lot of horses. I would pray in the last race. I have zero confidence in 4, 5, 7, 12 in the last race. But again, some knucklehead said we got to keep the ticket to $100 or less. So that's what we're doing. And the first race is very difficult also. I would definitely suggest to everyone out there, and I'll talk about it on the blog, because the blog this week is going to have that I'm going to be writing. We'll have Del Mar and Saratoga. And for those of you subscribe to the blog, I'm going to do full card. That's right, full card Del Mar and Saratoga, the races we didn't even talk about earlier in the day. I'm going to talk about on the blog. I would highly recommend you spread early and late in this pick 5 on Saturday at Del Mar. As we wrap up the show, guys, appreciate you coming on. Pete, any final thoughts about Saturday at Del Mar?
I think Paul said it earlier, and I think you said it too. I think this is a good sequence. I don't think there's super obvious singles. I think there's deep enough fields. I don't think we're going to have. I think there's enough where I think a bomb can come in at least 2 of these races, and if you do that, then I think you're getting a high price ticket potentially. So I think this is one to play for sure.
Paul, is it going to be Bafford's Day Saturday or not in the big stake races? What's your gut feeling?
Well, based on the picks that I've talked about, no, but no one's going to be shocked if it is. I'll certainly be rooting for it not to be his day. I can tell you that much. But yeah, it's how great is it to have on a Saturday night for those of us on the East Coast starting at what'd you say 8:00, Howard?
Yep,
I mean,
8:00 Eastern.
It doesn't really get much better than that. So
no.
And Howard, I would like to say that you'll relate to this. I'm happy because 1 week from this very minute, I will have just finished a delicious Italian meal at Pennell's on Jefferson Street in Saratoga Springs.
I did not have a chance to go there, but there's a bunch of places I'll have to hit next time. Guys, I think we're going to wrap it up. I don't want to throw shade at Saratoga because tomorrow we're going to talk about Saratoga with Seth Merrow, and it's a great card. But the Del Mar card is deeper, and I'm definitely going to be saving more of my money for Saturday night as opposed to Saturday during the day. I just think the betting opportunities are better at Del Mar on Saturday. But, folks, you got to join us tomorrow night because we're going to cover the Vanderbilt, the Jim Danny with some great horses. You'll get to meet Seth Merrow if you don't know him. Excellent handicapper, great guy. He'll be with us. Again, 8:00 Eastern tomorrow to cover the late pick 5 and stake races at Del Mar. For Pete Visco and Paul Halloran, this has been your host, Howard Kravitz, episode 161 of the HHH Racing Podcast. By the way, check out our great website also, hhhracingpodcast.com. There's all really good info, including the article that wonderful gentleman below me wrote about me and the podcast. Thanks a lot, Paul, again. Appreciate that. Check it out on the website. We're also going to have some pictures of my vacation, a lot of other cool things up on hhhracingpodcast.com. Have a great night, everyone, and we will see you tomorrow, 8:00 Eastern. Take care. Good night.